How's it going, my dudes? Welcome back to another video. So for today, we're going to take a look at how we can Wanpan the Ilco Opus event boss. And I have a treat for you. I don't just have one way, but I have two ways to do so. So stay tuned to learn more about it. So very clearly, the first approach is to definitely go on element, which means you bring a win team into the fight because your win units are going to do 1.5 times more damage. Okay, so very obvious choice over here. We are going to have Sushiro as our main DPS. We're gonna have the basically kind of like the standard Wanpan lineup, right? You can check the Wanpan guide at the top for more information on that. However, we did replace Shirano for an Elk over here, and the reason for that is quite simple. Now, you don't want Shirano on this team because if Shirano goes, what happens is your Sushi would go next instead of your Suzu, and you always want Suzu to go next. And the reason for this is because with the addition of Jester, Suzu is no longer going to be able to cast her skill anywhere in the map, which means that she now has a proximity requirement which is very close to the boss, and Sushi has a much larger proximity requirement than that. Therefore, Sushi is gonna go first, and then your Wanpan is just gonna break. So for this case, you're gonna need an Elk. But of course, this is not all the reason why we have an Elk. Do take note that, Elk also has co-op wipe buff over here, and he also grants extra attack to the party, which further boosts your damage instead of what Shirano can bring, right? And another reason why we have a Jester here is, contrary to popular belief, he's not here to paralyze the boss, he's actually here to remove buffs. So the thing is, he hits twice, which means that he removes 2 buffs from the boss, and the boss has 4 buffs, right? So you're gonna need quite a few Jesters to remove all 4 of the buffs. But the thing is, we need 3 Jesters on this team, and the reason is simple. The first 2 Jesters are here to remove all the buffs on the boss, and the third Jester is where you can land the reduced wind resistance on the boss. Because take note that the boss is debuff immune, and buffs are removed from the right to the left. And because the debuff immunity is the second buff he has, we will need to remove 3 buffs to get to the debuff immunity. So this is what your team is supposed to look like, but this is just one such team. Okay, so like I said, you need 3 Jesters, right? That means that you need to actually replicate this team 3 times, except for one of the player, you may need to replace your Elk with Clarice, for example, a Clarice or an Annie, whoever, that's fine. So let's say you go with a Clarice over here. She does have her own buff removal. So as you can see over here, she does remove her buff with her skill. So she's gonna go first. In this setup, your Owl's gonna go first. Clarice is gonna remove 1 buff from the boss, and then that actually gives you more leeway to drop wind resistance debuff. So the thing is, at the start, Clarice removes 1 buff on the boss. There's 3 more buffs left. One Jester removes 2 buffs. There is 1 buff left. The second Jester removes the other buff and applies 1 stack of wind resistance decrease. And then the next Jester goes, applies yet another wind resistance decrease. That's gonna be enough for you to do significant damage to one-shot the boss. So just take note of that nuance over there where one team has to look like this and the other 2 teams have to have 2 Elks inside. Now we can look at the run for itself. And here we go, big shout out to Chitanda and Dewo. I guess that's how your name is pronounced. We are all running the same team except for Dewo, who has so kindly sacrificed his Clarice for us. So let's take a look at how the run looks like. And that has been the run. I think there is some efficiency issue with the Jesters. I'm not sure. They are supposed to remove all the buffs properly, but sometimes it takes a bit too much time to do so. I'm not sure why. But anyway, we secured the wind resistance down, and that is great, and that's how we managed to one-shot the boss. So okay, so this run took a little bit more time than I would have hoped, and I would have liked. It took me 14 seconds. So let's just watch this run again and see how we fared the second time around. And oh yeah, don't forget, there are 2 Astro Shards. Now for this second round, I want you to take a look at the boss's buff. Okay, take note of it. They are being removed from the right to the left. That is an interesting mechanic that I think we can look into the future. And now let's take a look at why this run sometimes fails. Now if you notice, we actually landed our attacks a little bit too slow, and that's because Sushi does have a proximity requirement. So this is going to be a problem with this run where it's not always super stable. It is generally very stable, but once in a while this would happen and you would hit the boss only right after his down state has ended. And if you have trouble running this boss, you would understand why we are going to suffer a lot right here. And this is going to be the second team. Yes, you have seen me use this before. If not, check out the video at the top. You can see how Elia bursts through a lot of the bosses. So for this stage, we need 3 Elia Wanpan comps in order to one-shot the boss, and it's amazing. So I don't really need to explain this team again. Like I said, you can just refer to the link at the top. Let's take a look at the runs. Yep, so why do you even need boss mechanics when you can just be the mechanic yourself? Now let's see how the run went. Yeah, we are all doing about the same amount of damage. And what do you know, 6.85 seconds, that is an incredible runtime. So I guess I can use the rest of the video to explain why this team works. Okay, so the thing is, Elia is extremely powerful and a lot of you are already aware of that. And we generally only need one single Elia comp to one-punch any of the current existing bosses that we have in the game. So while this boss is extremely difficult, we do have 3 different powerful Elia comps that collectively would be able to have enough firepower to down this boss. But this is just Advanced Plus, right? So I'm assuming that as we progress to harder difficulties like the EX, right, extra difficulties, it may not be likely that we can one-punch anymore, considering how bosses like Golem EX has 60 million HP and we can barely even scratch 10 million damage on a single Elia. So I don't know the longevity of one-punch teams, but it's still going to be really useful, especially for quote-unquote easier stages like this. But I'm also aware that to a lot of you guys, this stage is not easy at all, and you don't have the units that we do, you don't have the power that we have, and as such, this doesn't really apply to you. So if you're new, I would highly recommend that you build a one-punch team ASAP. Elia is just a 4-star unit, you may luck out on her. If not, just wait for a future light banner with her as a rate up character. But then again, I don't want to speak too far into the future. Maybe by then, one-punch comps are no longer relevant, right? So I guess that's it for this video. It was a really good one. We had a lot of fun doing this together. And at least now you know how to grind this boss super quick, super efficiently, and get all the materials that you need, clear the shop ASAP, and move on with your life, right? So all in all, I think the event has been a great success. I like the boss fight, I like the shop, I like the rewards, I like the weapons. Also, big shout out to the guys who joined me on this run, as well as the several others on Discord who wanted to join me as well. I truly appreciate all of you. We shall do this again someday. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. This has been Free to Play, by the way, and as always, I will see you in the next video.